3, 2, 1. Command has been given. Crank him up.
Let's go. When I say I don't know, I don't know.
Let's go, baby.
Now, the morning drive.
Buckle up, everybody.
A little bit of this and a little bit of that.
It's a game changer.
I listen to you guys every single day on my way to work.
Well, again, I'm not a doctor, nor do I play one on the radio.
You guys are amazing.
What are you doing over there?
I'm going to the top.
The morning drive.
To the bat balls.
Sirius XM NASCAR Radio, Channel 90, live and on the air for this Thursday, March 16th, 2023. Mike Bagley here in Del Marvolo Studio 1D. Pistol Pete's off today. Kelly Crandall coming to us live from the Atlanta Motor Speedway, I think. I don't know where she is. We'll find out in a moment. Pistol Pete Pistone's off. Kelly's in. She's in. Oh, okay. Sammy and Davey, we're wadding this thing up already. We're not even taking the green flag yet. We're not even up to the gearbox yet. Sammy and Davey are in Studio 134 of the Beltway Bureau at our nation's capital. We welcome each and every one of you to this Thursday morning and welcome in Kelly from the headquarters of the Performance Racing Network in Concord, North Carolina.
There you go. The longer restart zone isn't helping us either, apparently. So we're just wadding it up right from the start.
You tweeted yesterday that you were off to Atlanta, and I thought you were leaving yesterday. And because I'm looking and I'm like, well, those walls are red. That kind of looks like a PRN thing, but maybe Brandon Hutchison painted the walls at the media center. I don't know.
No, it's probably just me not being very clear and direct in my tweets, which I'm known to do. I tweet and I don't sometimes proofread before I tweet. I just fire off the little note there and don't pay attention. So maybe I wasn't very clear. Not yet. After we get off the air, Bagman.
Well, you had a lot going on yesterday, as we all did with events of the day yesterday.
I just took a nap all day yesterday. What happened? I was in bed. I'm completely oblivious. Can you fill me in? Is it detailed? Is it going to take 4 hours today? Are we going to have anything to talk about?
Well, this explanation is going to probably take about 15 minutes, so why don't we dive right in, shall we?
All right, perfect. Fill me in, like I said.
All right, so
I took the day off.
When we left the air yesterday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, we were waiting to hear if NASCAR was going to respond on a couple of different matters. First of all, the louvers, or the radiator ducts, as they're also known in the rule book on the next-gen car that were taken from Hendrick Motorsports at Phoenix. We're waiting to see if we're going to hear anything more on that. Also, we were waiting to hear what was going to happen with the Denny Hamlin podcast situation about him admittedly going after Ross Chastain and trying to wreck him on Sunday. Well, we heard from NASCAR yesterday, and we have a lot to unpack. Buckle up. Here we go. As it pertains to the Hendrick Motorsports and Colleague Racing louver situation, the number 5, the number 9, the number 24, the number 48, the number 31 teams have been penalized, citing in the rule book sections 10.5.1.a, subsection 14.1 C, D, and Q, as it pertains to the overall assembly vehicle rules, in particular 14.5.4.2a, the radiator duct. The penalty is for unapproved modifications of a single source vendor supplied part. We'll break it down by team. The number 5 team for Kyle Larson. The team and the driver have been docked 100 points and 10 playoff points. Crew Chief Cliff Daniels has been suspended for 4 races and fined $100,000. Kyle Larson before this was 5th in points. This will take him to 32nd in points and -9 in the playoff point category. The number 9 team for Chase Elliott. The team only has been docked 100 points and 10 playoff points. Crew Chief Alan Gustafson suspended 4 races, fined $100,000. The team actually goes from 29th to 26th in points, but the team only will incur that playoff point deduction. Since Chase was not entered in the event and driving the car, he will not suffer a driver point loss. Neither will Josh Berry, who is not declared for points in the Cup Series. No driver points have been assessed on the 9 car. The number 24 car, William Byron. The team and driver have been docked 100 points and 10 playoff points. Crew Chief Rudy Fugle has been suspended for the next 4 races, fined $100,000. The 24 car goes from 4th to 29th in points, and their playoff point total is now 3, taking account the 10-point deduction that comes along with this penalty. The number 48 team for Alex Bowman, the team and the driver docked 100 points and 10 playoff points. Crew Chief Blake Harris has been suspended for the next 4 races, fined $100,000. The team goes from first in the point standings to 23rd, and now sitting with a minus 10 playoff point total. All these crew chiefs will be able to return at Martinsville the weekend of April 15th and 16th. Hendrick Motorsports has filed an appeal, but they have chosen not to defer the suspensions. Those suspensions will begin immediately, and no appeal date has been set as of now. As it pertains to Colleague Racing, the number 31 car for Justin Haley, the team and the driver have been docked 100 points and 10 playoff points. Crew Chief Trent Owens suspended for the next 4 races, fined $100,000. The team goes from 24th to 43rd in points. They only had 60 points to begin with. They now have a point tally of minus 40, and they also have a playoff point tally of minus 10. Now, a couple of reactions from that. Colleague Racing says it is going to appeal. We will hear from both parties in a moment. First, before we get to the reaction from both parties, Kelly, what is your reaction to NASCAR bringing down these penalties yesterday?
I can't really say I'm surprised. This fits with what we saw last year, where whenever it comes to a piece or a part that NASCAR deems has been modified, a single source supplied part, they have been very clear from the beginning that with this next-gen car, they are going to issue heavy penalties. This is a car, and these are parts and pieces that they don't want touched because it goes completely against what this car is supposed to be. This is a car where you're not allowed to make your own pieces. You are not allowed to be in your shop coming up with your own ideas. This car, you put it together, spec pieces. Everybody's supposed to have the same thing. So falling in line with what we saw last year with RFK Racing and Front Row Motorsports and even Joe Gibbs Racing, anytime NASCAR, again, has seen something that they have said is modified, you get a heavy penalty like this. So not surprised at all. We're going to hear from the parties, as you said, and I was, I guess, pleasantly surprised at how open Hendrick Motorsports was in laying out their case to the media about, or part of their case of why they are appealing it. So not surprised by the penalties. Now it's going to be kind of watching this unfold and see where it goes from here. I will say I think it's an uphill battle to try to get these penalties overturned or reduced here, again, just going by what we saw last year.
So let's get to the reaction part. You mentioned Hendrick Motorsports, very forthcoming. They issued a statement yesterday, and I'm going to read you that statement right now. Dateline, Concord, North Carolina. Hendrick Motorsports will be appealing penalties handed down from NASCAR following the race weekend at Phoenix. A statement from the team read, quote, on Friday at Phoenix Raceway, NASCAR identified louvers on our race cars during a voluntary inspection 35 minutes after the opening of the garage and prior to on-track activity. NASCAR took possession of the parts approximately 4 hours later with no prior communication. The situation had no bearing on Saturday's qualifying session or Sunday's race, unquote. The statement also cited several facts, including louvers provided to teams through NASCAR's mandated single-source supplier do not match the design submitted by the manufacturer and approved by NASCAR. Documented inconsistent and unclear communication by the sanctioning body specifically related to louvers. Recent comparable penalties issued by NASCAR have been related to issues discovered during a post-race inspection. The statement goes on to say, for the March 19th NASCAR Cup Series event at Atlanta Motor Speedway, Hendrick Motorsports has elected not to request deferral of personnel suspensions, citing a strategic decision. Atlanta is now a drafting track and a super speedway style race. Substitute crew chiefs have not been determined. The penalties assessed by NASCAR are a loss of 100 points in the driver and owner standings for each team, a fine of $100,000 to each of them, a loss of 10 playoff points to each driver and team, and a 4-race suspension for each crew chief. Chase Elliott, who has been sidelined while he recovers from a fractured tibia, will not be subject to the driver and playoff point penalties, as he was not the driver of record this past weekend. At Phoenix, Hendrick Motorsports won its second straight race of the season with driver William Byron and saw all 4 of its cars finish in the top 10. Quote, there was nothing, not last week, not this week, that was getting them to victory lane other than a lot of hard work and great teamwork, quote, Vice Chairman Jeff Gordon said after the win. That is the statement from Hendrick Motorsports. Last night, Chris Rice, the president of Colleague Racing, took to Twitter and tweeted this video.
What's up, guys? Just wanted to say hello and that I'm still smiling, that I'm not running from something that is everybody looks at it different. I look at it as in it is what it is, and you'll see our stand on it tomorrow. We're going to put out a press release and what we are going to do and how we're going to move forward with this. But at the end of the day, we got to go to Atlanta. We got to go to all these racetracks and try to win. We got to get better as our Cup program. Our Xfinity program has constantly gotten better and better, and we got to keep getting better. Thanks to Kyle for driving it the last 2 races. We focus on the positive stuff at Colleague Racing. We don't focus on the negative stuff, and it's easy to get involved in the negative stuff and get involved in whatever is being said or whatever people think. But at the end of the day, my guys did nothing wrong. And I know Matt Colleague stands behind that. I stand behind that, and we're gonna head off to Atlanta. We're gonna give it all we got. Justin Haley is gonna do the things he's done in the past and run good at the speedways and run good at Atlanta. And A.J. Allmendinger's are going to do the same. Chandler Smith has been very impressive. Justin Haley's coming back to the 10 car with leaf filter gutter protection on it. And, Daniel Hemrick's just getting better and better every weekend. And that's what matters with his leg and his knee. So, you know what? I'm sitting here smiling. I want you guys to smile and thank you for all the support. And you guys will see tomorrow what we are, our thoughts are, and how we feel about what has went on today and the penalties and the different things that happened at Phoenix. But we love you guys. We love all our sponsors. And, at the end of the day, we still going to be smiling. And that's what it's about, having fun at Colleague Racing and smiling and doing the best we can. So thank you and have a great night. And I hope you're smiling to somebody.
That again, the president of Colleague Racing, Chris Rice. So we've heard the reaction from Hendrick. We've heard the reaction from Colleague. Now we hear from NASCAR and Senior VP of Competition, Elton Sawyer, who explains why the Hendrick and Colleague cars were penalized.
It was obvious to us that these parts had been modified in an area that wasn't approved. This is a consistent penalty with what we went through last year with other competitors, the 6, the 34. So we felt like, to keep the garage on a level playing field, the competition level where it needs to be, all the dialogue that went around this car last year, working with the owners on what the deterrent model should be, we were put in a position that we didn't feel like there was no other way but to write a penalty.
So that is NASCAR Senior VP of Competition, Elton Sawyer. So, Kelly, we know the penalties. We hear the reaction from every party. So now, somewhere in the middle is where this now with the appeals process, we mentioned that Hendrick is appealing, Colleague will appeal. They've made they will initiate that appellate process, and then it'll be turned over to a 3-person panel who, when we find out the date, will sit and will listen to both sides, and they will either maintain the penalty, they will either adjust the penalty up or down, or they can vacate the penalty. That is what is next in this process. Your thoughts?
Well, it goes back to what I said a minute ago. I think, again, I respect the process, and I know the teams respect the process, and Hendrick Motorsports laid out their case. We're going to hear from Colleague today. I think it's a tough road. It's an uphill battle to try to get this obviously completely wiped away. I think maybe the best they're hoping for is maybe a reduction in some area. You heard from Hendrick Motorsports in their statement say that this is a penalty that correlates to a post-race infraction that's been found in inspection. Take RFK Racing in the 6 car of Brad Keselowski. Basically 1 year ago, the infraction was found after Atlanta. I don't know, Bagman. I think the best that they can hope for is some sort of reduction, unless they have a really good case and they can give that 3-person appeals panel something to think about. So again, I respect the fact of how open Hendrick Motorsports right now. Again, we're waiting to hear from Colleague Racing, but I respect how open they've been, and it's going to be fascinating to watch how this is all going to play out. But I personally don't expect anything at this point to change.
Now, we have told you about the Hendrick penalties and the Colleague penalties, and in the Department of Weight, there's more. There's even more penalties to get to. We're going to hit a break. We'll pick those up on the other side. We will be chatting with you about all of these penalties at 866-BIT-LANE and on Twitter at SiriusXMNASCAR, hashtag TMDNASCAR. Coming up on the show, give you headline check number 1 at the bottom of the hour, and, of course, you can probably imagine what those headlines will be filled with. Coming up at 9 this morning, we'll visit with Kyle Petty. The Kyle Petty charity ride is getting ready to break loose. We'll chat with Kyle and get his thoughts on the matters of the day, plus the matters that are getting ready to be handled on 2 wheels instead of 4. Coming up at 10 this morning, We'll talk NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series racing with Stuart Friesen. Tough Trucks of NASCAR off to the Atlanta Motor Speedway this weekend. And coming up at 10:30, we'll visit with Ryan Preece. The last time we chatted with Ryan, it was media day before the Daytona 500. We'll check in. Been some tough sledding, but a good finish over the weekend for Ryan. We'll get his thoughts as we get set to head to Atlanta. It is a very busy morning here on this Thursday, March 16th, 2023. And we're so glad that you are along for the ride here on hashtag TMD NASCAR, which is brought to you by Boot Barn. Boot Barn, proud supporters of the West.